This is the culture.
Hello and welcome back to the Culture Wave Media Network. I am your host for this episode of Jersey's Finest, Darian Scalamoni. I am joined by Zach Miller.
What's up? What's up?
And for our third episode of Jersey's Finest, we have a very special guest here. She is a director, a writer, an assistant director, and her name is Annie Fleisch.
Hello.
Annie, what's going on? How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. This is something that we've been talking about for a little while now. We finally got you in studio. And this is special because Zach and I are good friends with Annie.
Yes. This is a very special time for us.
It is. This is going to be a fun episode.
Yes.
And the first thing I want to talk to you about, because you do work in film, as we do, and production in general, I always want to start with, how did you first connect to film as a medium? Like, what was it basically that set you on your path of everyone has that like moment where it just something captures them and it brings them to a different level. So I'm curious what that is for you.
Well, I think it all comes back to middle school, honestly. I was always making those little iMovie trailers, and I was always making my friends help out. I wasn't making them, they wanted to help too, but I was just very intrigued about making little movies, entertainment, and I was also so infatuated by YouTube and movies and storytelling. And I think the first time it might have clicked for me was, I don't remember how old I was, maybe 9. I saw The Secret Life of Walter Mitty in the theaters. I was probably a little older than 9, actually. But I saw that movie, and for some reason, it just really touched my film soul, I guess, because I really liked the story of following your dreams and how something that seems so crazy doesn't have to be so crazy. So when I was applying to colleges, actually, I was writing my admissions essay about how I saw that movie and how it really sparked the film bug in me. So then I just really enjoyed it. And then when I was in middle school, I found out there was a local high school that had a magnet program, the Fine Performing Arts Academy. And just like Miller and you, we all went to there.
Yes, we did.
So I submitted an application, and you had to make a portfolio, which was a little video. And in the program, there was acting, dancing, and film and music production. So the film and music production side is what I applied to and got in. And in high school, I was really able to explore film and storytelling, and that really cemented for me that I wanted to pursue it.
So interesting, because even when you talk about the audition process for FPAC, which we'll dive into that more in a little bit, but my experience, I'm a little bit older than you are, but like when I was there, nobody submitted videos for
really?
For even the video program.
Really?
It was based on storyboarding.
You
so
had to do a whole storyboard?
I did a storyboard for, I think, like basically 3 scenes of something that I came up with.
Wow.
So
Okay. How were your drawing skills?
not good.
They
To
let
be
you
honest,
in?
everyone's going to hear this now. If Craig Churn is listening to this and everybody involved in FPAC, my mother did the drawings. I came up with the idea. So thank you, Mom. You got me in.
We're
But I was
revealed.
waitlisted. I was waitlisted.
Oh, plot twist.
But it's okay. I got it.
You did, yes, it worked out.
But that's so interesting because so you applied. What year was it when you applied?
Well, my first year of high school was 2015.
So it had to have been like 2013, 2014.
Yes.
Right?
And
2014 probably.
if I remember correctly, I used to do competitive gymnastics. So I believe my video was a day in the life of a gymnast.
Oh, that's a cute idea.
Yeah, and I made it all on iMovie. I added in music. I think you could tell by watching it that I really cared, and I put a lot of heart and effort into it. So that was probably what they saw.
Okay. So you had a real genuine interest even before you got into the video program.
I guess so, because I really knew I wanted to get into that program, and I guess I went the lengths to make that whole video. So I definitely knew it was something I was really interested in.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about what stood out to you with our arts program. Like the teachers there specifically, they have a really good way of nurturing our students and letting them excel in their creativity. So tell us a little bit about your relationship with Scott Knapp. Scott Napolitano.
Scott Knapp.
We all love him. He was still is the teacher for the video production classes in the program. And he is really big on storytelling, which is important and really great because at the end of the day, you can have great audio, great visuals, great production design, all of that stuff. But if the story is bad, then the film is not good. And he really drilled that into us. And I think he was able to really pull out the best stories possible, even if we didn't have the best equipment or, the best places to shoot at. We always were able to create really good stories. And that was really great. I really love that Nap pushed that all in us.
Was there a storytelling device that either he influenced on you or something that you've come across in your years so far of working in general that has stuck with you and based on storytelling in general? Like a rule or like something that has you really try to hone in on every single time you work on a project from now on?
Yeah, well, the first thing that sticks to me is more of a technical aspect, because I remember in high school, Nap taught us the thirds in camera. And that is something that I find when I'm directing, I really love to follow. I like using the thirds and putting a character here and having open space here. And I think it creates really dynamic imagery. But when it comes to writing, I think he really talked about creating a good character, and creating good character first will help you create a really good story. So I often try to follow that when I'm writing, is just focusing a bit on the character, what their interests are, what they like. Even if all of those components aren't going to be shown in the film, it's important for you as a writer and as a director to know the answer to all of those questions.
So I think also going from high school to college, before we get into your college stuff, do you think it came with writing those characters and writing those stories that you started to see a more presented style? Is there a style you would say you try to gravitate towards a little bit more in your storytelling?
Yeah, I think since I really prioritize a character, I often find that my style focuses more on a character's face. I often like really close-up images in the film where a character might not even be saying anything, but you can really feel what they're feeling through their eyes and their face, the emotion on their face. So I find that my style focuses a lot on that and human connection. So there will be a lot of hugging, touching, just humanness in it. And I really think that the characters I focus on create a grounded story.
So going into your time at SVA, what led to the choice in SVA and what gave you the idea that you wanted to pursue more film in college too? Because there's a big separation between high school and film school. And what led to that creatively where you wanted to pursue it further in the industry?
Yeah, in high school, I was always obsessed with the idea of going to the school in Manhattan. I mean, I grew up going to New York every once in a while for just day trips, seeing Broadway shows, all that stuff, and I loved it. But I think what really clicked was in early senior year of high school, NAP helped us with this program that the All-American High School Film Festival hosted, and it was intensive, and you also did it your year. But basically what the film festival does is they give you a prompt about 8 or 10 weeks out from when you need to shoot. So they give you a prompt, you are put on a team, and you go into New York and you have 3 days to shoot and edit it. And then it becomes of a really big film festival. So going to that event and doing all of that process in New York really cemented my love for filmmaking, specifically in New York. And I just loved the rush, the environment, everything that comes with that. So when I was choosing schools, I knew that going to school in New York was really important for me. And when I toured SVA, I just loved it because they're so film centered. They really want you to learn all aspects of film. And from day one, it's super hands-on, unlike other schools where they maybe wait a few weeks before you touch equipment, or they make you make some gen eds before your film classes. But SVA is not like that. You have film classes day one, and it's really great. So I knew after touring and visiting their facilities that I really wanted to go there.
I think I want to go back to All American really quick because I didn't have a chance to do it when I was in FPAC.
Yeah,
but
I feel like I could explain it better too. It might be a little unclear
no, but
what it is.
I think that I want to play to what you were just talking about in terms of the experience it gave you, because even I went as an educator after I was a substitute at Howell when I was teaching at Perth Amboy High School, and that was something that even for me being able, and I acted in their project because they needed somebody, and I was like, sure, I'll do it, whatever. But being in that kind of environment where you were saying it's intensive and there's such a clear goal and such a desire and there's so much hard work placed on it even above what you would do in high school, even though it's like a high school project and festival basically, that it's very inspiring for anybody. So anyone who's like
Definitely.
on the cusp of thinking about something, it kind of pushes you creatively to be in this whole different spectrum. Would you agree? Or
I completely agree that doing this experience is a telltale sign if this is meant for you or not, because you're under a lot of pressure. You have to work very quickly. You have to think very quickly. You have to troubleshoot. And it's just a very intense experience. So I think you either come out realizing you love it or you don't like it as much as you thought you did. So I completely agree with that.
I think there's a really true sense of working together with your group.
Definitely.
Like in high school, at least like from my experience when I was in FPAC, I'm sure you guys have had this too. But like there were times where you would work with people just because they were your friends. And again, they might not take it as seriously as you do. So you're doing like more of the work than other people would do. At All American, at least in my experience, I felt like everybody wanted to be a help and everybody had a role and everyone played to their role really well. And it kind of just made it feel like a legitimate film set. So I don't know. That for me it was a cool. How was it for you, Zach?
It was really cool. It was the same thing. It was a team atmosphere. I feel like it was that first take at being on a film set, and even though it wasn't as organized or regimented as like our film sets that you did in college or even after the fact working on big stuff, it feels like it has that intensity to it, and then just the community that comes with it too is really cool. I loved like seeing all the films at the festival and like being involved in a festival for the first time too, and seeing just how people can come out and support films in that way. And then, there was like the awards ceremony they did for everyone, which was really fun. And that was a cool experience. So that was a really like similar to you, like good eye-opening experience of, oh, this is a great transition from we were making videos at one point and now we're getting graduated into filmmaking and that type of atmosphere. So
yeah, and you get to see your film be screened at the AMC in Times Square,
Yeah,
which
that
is
was
really
really
awesome.
cool. And
Yeah.
you did that your junior year of high school, or was it senior year?
It was both. So my junior year, I was just like an intern, kind of observing what was going on, taking notes. So going into it the next year, I knew exactly what it was. I just wasn't going into it blind. So yeah, junior year I was an intern, and then senior year I was a director.
And I feel that in Howell's school system, like when you're in the program, you're in freshman to senior year. But I feel like when you get to that junior year, when we separate too, some people go music and audio production, some go video.
Right.
It's kind of this just whole different level, and even like mentally, if you are committed to doing it, it's just really different. Was it similar for you? I know it was for me. I don't know about Zach, and you could definitely jump in whenever, but I'm curious, like, was junior year the kind of stepping up point for you where you felt like it was a whole different thing?
Yeah, I think junior year, in general, besides All American, the projects that NAP gives us are a lot more elevated and a little bit more elegant than from freshman and sophomore year. So going into a junior year now with the people that have chosen to be there, it really kind of also cements the environment and what you like to do, and also when you're on set, what positions you like. And then being on All American as a junior, just getting to observe it all really made me super excited for the next year to actually be on the team, or optimistically, because there's no guarantee. So yeah.
Yeah, I think there's like also freshman and sophomore year was a nice time to get creative juices out and really express yourself. Yeah, exactly. Like you could do a project by yourself if you wanted to freshman and sophomore year, but when you got to junior and senior year, there was more of an emphasis on group projects and having a crew, or at least having a little bit of delegation towards, if you can get a DP, you should do that in high school. And then, we would try and play around with sound, I think, at that point. I'm trying to remember when I was in high school. But
yeah, we had the little Zooms, or at least we did. I'm not sure.
I think we had something like that. And then I know we were just starting to get cameras in and like more experimenting with that. So whatever was available, but there was definitely, at least in terms of the junior senior stories and the project level, it was definitely more get a crew and collaborate instead of just I have my one vision and like get out of your shell. So yeah,
I'm jealous of all the equipment you guys eventually got because I didn't have a lot of that.
We still had camcorders.
Yeah, Yeah, we had camcorders, I think, up until my senior year. But we were like, I remember when we got the T series for Canon, everyone was like hype. SVA. So you picked the school, you loved your experience, you just graduated last May.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious about the like specific classes, certain educators that really inspired you and what that whole experience was. Because I haven't talked to you a lot about your college experience, but I'm curious, and I know there's other people from our program that have gone there, but I'm curious what it was like for you, and did it pay off? I'm sure it did, but certain things that stick with you about the program in general and just classes, educators, etc.
Yeah, well, it definitely paid off. I think I was able to meet so many great people and get so many great opportunities. The one thing that really sticks out to me is, like I just said, the people that I met. I met so many great, amazing, creative people that I love working with. But also, as I mentioned earlier, it is just so hands-on, which was really important to me because, you know, in high school, as I said, I knew I wanted to do film and I was just so ready to jump into it. So I was just really prioritizing that hands-on experience and getting to write stories and make films. I mean, I made my first film by the end of the first semester, my freshman year. So by December, I already had one film done, which I really loved. And it was just the same thing after that. Semester after semester, I was making films. And then I was going to make another film in the spring, but that is unfortunately when COVID hit. But I was still able to make something at home. I had my parents act in it. It was fun. It was able to keep me busy while I was locked up. But yeah, each semester I basically made a film, which was really great. You were asking about administrators and professors. Yeah. So the first one that sticks out to me is definitely Stacy Herman. She taught line producing, or she still teaches there. And I took her class my sophomore year, and then I became her TA my junior and senior year. And I love Stacy Herman so much. She is so caring about all of her students and what they're learning. And she is just such a big advocate for the process and her students and wanting to teach them as much as they can. So her class was really great because I got to learn about brand new things like budgeting, strip boards, you know, making a proper schedule, all of these things that you wouldn't need to think about. Like, okay, you're making a film, so you're going to need a truck for all of your equipment. But when you're making your budget, you need a driver and you have to pay that driver. And then you need gas. You got to pay for the gas. And then you're going to go through tolls. So all these little things that I now always think about, but before her class, I never really thought about. So I'm still in touch with her today, and she's such a great mentor to me. So definitely Stacy, love her. And then I also had a teacher, Jenna Ricker, who is a writer-director, and she was a big mentor for me with screenwriting, just making a clean script, being concise, having complex storytelling, all of that stuff. So that was really great. I had George LeVoux, who taught directing and screenwriting. Same thing. He was a big advocate for just getting us hands-on and making films and wanting us to be collaborative and having experience. So yeah, those are the big three that come to mind. But honestly, every professor and mentor I've had or met there have definitely impacted me.
So besides directing, tell us a little bit about what else you've done on set. Like, I know you got into assistant directing a lot, so tell us a little bit about that transition.
Yeah, I would say in junior year is when I started shifting more towards assistant directing. And I found that I really liked assembling things and planning something and seeing through with it, while also collaborating with a director and a producer to make all of those visions come true. Well, come true, yes, but, you know, that they just happen. So yeah, and I've just assistant directed one set and then another and then another. And I found that I really liked it, but I also thought I was decently good at it. So yeah.
Decently. No, everyone was asking you after you were really good at it. Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, so that is definitely what I gear towards now when I'm not writing or directing. I also just love being on set and being in that environment. It's such an adrenaline rush, and I like starting a day and finishing a day and getting through everything that was planned and just collaborating with other creatives and really going through the whole process. So that's why I love assistant directing.
Do you prefer ADing over directing, or is it because they're different in their own
Yes.
ways? They're very different.
They're
but
very different, and you won't really find too many directors that also like assistant directing. At least that's what I found. But I think my love and preference is still directing, but I do love assistant directing.
Yeah, because directing, there's more of a like, I don't want to say there's not a creative aspect of ADing, but direction, it's all about the creative process, I feel like. And with AD, it's
practical.
I don't want to. I was going to say
Yeah.
dictator, but that's not the right word.
Yeah.
But you're basically just like ordering everyone around. You're doing a lot
If
of
you
the
want to
stuff.
simplify
Yes, there's a lot more to it. There's a more nuanced answer, which I'm sure you can provide.
It's making sure everything happens and people are going through with all of their jobs and tasks at hand.
It's more your job to make sure the set runs smoothly than it is the director. The director's job is the creative aspect of what the finished product is going to be.
Exactly. I think obviously directing is a lot more creatively driven, but as Stacey Herman would say with line producing, which I think would go right with assistant directing, is you have to be creatively logistic. Because you can't be just logistic. You have to be creative about it. Like, okay, we have these 3 shots, but we only have 10 minutes left of our day. How can we cram these 3 shots into 1 shot? That is something that I would have to think of. So I think having all of my director experience also helps with that greatly by, figuring out where to put the camera to get the best angle of something to just get it done in 10 minutes.
Yeah, you're a lot of like being the devil's advocate of,
Definitely.
You will have to bring the bad news to people sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
But like, if you don't give them the answers that they need, you might not make your days. So I think that is a very challenging role to take on in itself. But
it is very challenging, and I've learned a lot through ADing. I've learned how when I'm given a script, if I'm like, okay, this is going to be easier, oh my God, this is going to be really hard. So I've learned a lot through ADing, but I still love it. Hasn't broken me down yet.
That's good.
Yeah.
No, I think you're suited for it. I definitely think so.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk about something a little different. I'm very curious because I've never heard this story, how you and Mr. Miller over there met. I know it was in high school. We both, Zach and I both have met you in high school, but at very different points.
Right.
So I'm curious. Let's tell me this story.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Take it away. Well, so we definitely met through your boyfriend, Mikey Smith.
Shout out Mikey Smith.
Like my best friend. And, we were making movies since we were in diapers at this point. It's just insane. The amount of like backyard Charlie Chaplin movies we were putting out, in that way. But, so there was I don't know the exact movie.
I can't remember either.
So we were just definitely making films, and I think it was a culmination of him taking on people in FPAC, and then our paths crossed at some point, and then you guys were dating, and I was like, okay. I was like, all right, hey man, let's go. All right.
It was really funny because the movie that he was making at that time, which is how I met him and you, he had heard through one of his other friends that I could do a little bit of special effects makeup, which I had a period of time where I was interested in that. Obviously, I've strayed very much so away from that.
Oh, yeah.
But that's why he reached out to me, because he needed blood or something, or cuts.
It was a good
someone.
excuse for him to try and flirt with you.
Yeah, I think it was. It worked.
That's so interesting because I just never would have pictured you with someone who wanted to do like
we were
special
shooting
effects
each other with
makeup and
Nerf
stuff like that.
guns.
They were painted though.
They
so
were
it looked
painted.
real.
And this was what year was this?
2016.
So this was your
This is my senior year.
senior year. Okay.
Definitely when I met you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I was making films with him before that, but
Way before.
yeah, we definitely met each other because I remember meeting you before I went to college and all that.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I have vivid memories of like me and Mikey'd be talking in the hallway and you would come up and like.
I'd be like, "Who's this, man? Who's this?" She's gonna get in the way of our films.
Very protective of the guy friendships in high school. I noticed.
Like, is she good for you, bro?
Seriously?
Is she good?
Oh my god. Something else that I know you guys do together with Mikey as well too is like you guys have a really big love and appreciation for like traveling and hiking. So I'm curious if that was something that you had before you had met Mikey, or if that was something that is just a separate. This is a whole different topic, but I'm just curious.
No, it's
I think it's
okay.
super interesting.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
I had always been super interested in traveling and seeing like nature and new areas because for the longest time I'd never left the East Coast. And I think Mikey also had never really left the East Coast all that much. You had been to
I went
California
with my family to
prior,
California once. Yeah.
but in 2020 is when we planned our big road trip. But
Yeah.
then we didn't do it until the next year.
Mhm.
So I think we were all mutually interested in traveling, and then we all just came together and started making plans to have
Yeah,
trips.
we had a bunch of people involved, but we ended up, some people had to drop out for time scheduling reasons and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But then the three of us
We
went.
stuck with it.
We stuck with it. We drove all the way across the country. We
I
did
lived
this-
vicariously through your Instagrams.
That's what
That was
happened.
me. I'm like sitting in my room, like, yeah, guys, go get it.
You drive.
Yeah.
We did it all in 16 days.
Oh, it was
Awesome.
absurd. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we went coast to coast, did a giant horseshoe around America. We went to like, I don't even know the amount of national parks. We went to so many.
Like
12?
8?
We
We went to, yeah, that many.
Oh my
We-
god.
a lot.
It was so many, and but it was seriously one of. I mean, I can
It was
probably
great.
speak for everybody. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had, and
Definitely.
will ever have. It is something that we would recommend to anybody. But yeah,
Completely.
That's adorable. All right, so when I met you, it was a much different time.
Right.
So when Zach met you, because you guys were in the same program together,
Mhm.
you were a freshman.
Right.
I met you when you were a senior.
Yes.
So I had conversations with Knapp over the years, and when I was a substitute teacher at Howell, when I met you, about how you like he got to see you just grow like every single year. So I had only
Not literally.
not literally. You're
I'm really short for reference.
the camera does wonders.
yes,
for
the
you
camera
right
the
now. It's
camera's
okay.
making you 6 inches taller. But what drew me to you initially as a creative was again like just your diligence, and I noticed that
Thank you.
when you had originally told me that you were going into ADing, I thought it was like the perfect fit. But I had met you because I was substituting for the acting teacher at the time.
Right.
And I actually taught your twin sister.
Yes.
Which was even funnier. And we did basically a cross project between the actors and the filmmakers. So I got to spend time with you in the classroom and stuff like that. But in the years I've known you since then, it's just like remarkable to see how you've grown year after year. And
Thank you.
and it's really true to say how different it is. Like Zach was kind of alluding to, like high school comparatively to college is just entirely different, especially when it comes to this medium. So that was how I met you. But what was your initial thought process in terms of applying to film schools? Because that's kind of a daunting thing in general as well. So was there like a really big stressful aspect to that for you, or were you just excited?
Both. I was very excited and very stressed. Like I mentioned earlier, I really wanted to prioritize hands-on experience, which was harder to come by than I thought based off of I have friends that go to all different film schools, and hearing their experiences is very interesting just to see how different film schools operate. But I knew I wanted to stay on the East Coast relatively, but I also wanted to go to a school with a good film reputation and had a good lineage. So, when I was discovering SVA and I heard like some alumni from the program went there, that's when I did more research, and I was like, oh, this is kind of like a little hidden gem I feel like not a lot of people know about because it's a pretty small school. But yeah, that process was pretty stressful. I mean, going through all the applications and everything, but it worked out.
All right, let's talk about your film that's coming out soon.
Yes.
So the film is called Homecoming.
Yes.
And I want to know the story about how you came up with the story in general and when you started on the process of making this film, which Zach worked on, by the way.
Yes.
If you
Zach
want to talk
was
about
my
your experience on it as well.
designer
Yeah.
and executive producer.
Yeah. Well, you explain it. I don't want to.
Now it's
I
your
know.
turn to talk,
It's your
Annie.
film. Yeah.
Yes. So Homecoming. So I first got the idea roughly in my junior year of college. So about 2 years ago, a little more than 2 years ago. And I love doing films that have a mystery component or a really good twist at the end you can't see coming. I mean, some of my favorite movies are Gone Girl, Prisoners, things that kind of followed those elements. So I knew I wanted to do something with that. But I tried to combine that with something that I found really important and really interesting and something that I think needs to be talked about a lot more, which is kind of missing women and human trafficking. So I started doing a lot of research on that, and I was just really surprised really just surprised on how little educated I was and how a lot of people are on that topic. So I thought combining that topic with my love for making mystery films would be a perfect idea. And that's kind of when I started to get the idea that I wanted to do a story about a girl who is essentially the epitome of an average high school teenager, or maybe a little bit above average because she was like a star athlete and everything. So a story about her, and she's gone missing because I really wanted to emphasize that anyone can go missing. No one is not at liberty to go missing. So that is what the story is about, and that's how I got the idea. So I started writing the script in January or December of 2021, January 2022. And then I finished it in May of 2022. And then we started shooting in September of 2022. And we shot for 3 days.
But also explain that it's a sequel to your first film, or the one that's a predecessor.
Yeah. So the year before all of this, I made an 8-minute short film called Shopped, which is essentially the prequel to Homecoming. It's much more low budget. There's different actors in it, but I really wanted to start developing the story of how the main character goes missing. And then in Homecoming, the focus switches to the friend and how she's looking for her. And it's basically a story about, yes, this average girl who no one thought would ever be taken or goes missing, but also how it affects all of the people left behind. And there's also an element about forgetfulness because, in social media, you'll see that this person's gone missing or this bad event happened. And then 3 days later, we're on to the next. Yeah. So there's definitely a scene in the film that kind of reflects that mentality that's been going on.
Yeah, I love that. The scene in the hallway you're talking about? Yeah, that's a great scene.
Thank
I love
you.
That. In terms of that project in general, what was the hardest part for you? I know there's so many aspects of production. It can be, you could say pre-production in general, production in general, post-production in general, or if you want to hone in on one thing in particular.
I mean...
And then what was also the most fulfilling?
Okay. So pre-production is obviously a beast in its own. It's really difficult, but it's a lot of time drawn out to have... I mean, it's never enough time, but you have a lot of time to do all of these things. I think the most challenging part was really filming it because, there's always obstacles and you can prepare for the worst and things that are even worse than the worst will still come. Like when we lost power in the house we were shooting in, or when the car we were filming in died and we couldn't roll up the window anymore. So there's always little things like that will be very challenging. So I think shooting was definitely the most difficult part. If I had to pick one specific aspect of that, I would say probably the hallway scene, because there was a lot of extras we had to gather and we were in a real school location. So securing that location was also another obstacle. And that was also the very first scene we shot of the film.
Wow.
So that, yeah. So it was a lot to do all at once. So it was definitely the most challenging, but that might have also been the most fulfilling. Doing that scene and seeing it in camera and how the frame filled up. It was really great. I loved filming that, even though it was really hard. But I think another component that was really fulfilling was the whole post-production process, because as much as I love development and being on set, I do have this whole other part of me that loves post-production and just seeing a film through. My editor, Joseph Rana, we are very parallel in the editing room. We often joke that we share the same brain because we're always so aligned on what we like with certain cuts and everything. So that was a very fun process, seeing it come together. And then my sound engineer, Kevin Fan, he is really great in the sound room. He was able to bring in sound effects and isolate certain sounds, and he did a really fantastic job with this film. So post-production was a super fulfilling process.
Yeah, they were. Those guys were both great on the film.
They're the best.
They were, and I'm glad I got to meet them through you. But they're really good at their jobs, and I really noticed too how, even though it was on paper a student set, it didn't feel like it. Everyone was really good at their jobs,
Thank
and
you.
everyone was firing on all cylinders. And
Yeah.
I think that was another good thing that you and Mikey did well, was organizing a good collaborative team and encouraging a fruitful environment for everything to just go as smooth as possible. So when those kinks did happen, it just it got evened out over time with the people that we had there. And I also want to say something about your story for this one compared to the first. The first Chopped was a big setup, and it was good with, it was a prequel, but with this one, it was nice how it focused on more of the closure, because the other lead, Becca, is not in the film really. Right. So it's more of how the protagonist has to come to terms with losing someone, and like you were saying, the effects that it has on the people around you. But I did like how you incorporated a very real world thing where people do pass off a tragic event as all right, well, I can't do anything about that, so I'm just going to let it go. But this one character has to stick to her guns, and she's like, this is my best friend. Like, I'm not going to psychologically just let it go and pass her off. She's a person. So
it's a very complicated topic, because while the world keeps turning, it's as if for Drew, our main character, it stopped, but she's in a world that's forcing her to keep going.
Yeah.
So
I thought that was really well done.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, cool.
I also wanted to ask about your experience on working on professional sets, because you have experience working on certain shows and films and things like that. You don't have to talk about any bad experiences, but I'm curious about a good experience or something that stood out to you that made you feel good about the industry you were in. Complicated question for the time right now.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
if something sticks out, and if it doesn't, then we can cut this.
I mean, I worked a while on Power Book 2 Ghost Season 3, and my key PA made that such a great experience. She really trusted me in a lot of components, and she made me be a better production assistant in so many ways. And by the time we got towards the end of the season, she basically promoted me to walkie PA, which I know to someone who doesn't know anything about this kind of sounds odd or nonsensical, but essentially the walkie PA is in charge of all of the walkie-talkies, which is a kind of a mass operation in its own, because there's a lot and you always have to facilitate them to new people on set or day players, and you just got to keep track of all of it. And if one gets lost, fingers are pointed at you. So it's kind of a big beast, but it's also a position that's often seemed to be a step below the key production assistant, which is obviously a really important role on set. They're in charge of all of the PAs. So when she entrusted me to be the walkie PA, I was very nervous, but I was very excited and glad that she trusted me with that process. And so yeah, that was great. But then also just being able to meet people on set and other production assistants and the AD department and like production designers, all of those people, it was really great. And it really shows you how big and small the industry is.
Yeah. There's like a real sense of community, I feel like, when you're on a set.
Definitely. Especially when it's a bigger show like this one and the crew is with each other for 6 to 8 months at a time. It's a very large sense of community, which is great.
I was also going to add to what you were saying of like, how you took on a role that you're not familiar with.
Yeah.
Disclaimer is, for the film industry, you're in trial by fire, like
it's
a lot of
very
situations.
True.
So it's good that you can take up a mantle being new to a role you're not very familiar with, and you're able to run with it. But it is very challenging to do something.
Challenging and very scary.
Yeah, and you feel like, early on in people's careers, you feel like you're leveraging your reputation so many times, because if you're like, if I screw this up, I might not get work after this or something. But there is this, like, if you're with good people at least, and they understand that you're green and that you can, you know, work in your job and you're making an effort at least, and you're a kind person, then at least they create the environment where you can excel, even if you're not doing well at first. Like, you can always get better at it. So I think it's a hard process, but you know, it's good that you were able to take that up. So
yeah, thank you. And what I learned is when you work on set, you are bound to make mistakes and fail, and it's just a part of the process. And being yelled at maybe here and there, that's all part of the learning experience. But what makes you great at it is how you respond to it and how you can change and adapt. So it's definitely trial by fire.
Yeah.
The last film related question I wanted to ask you is just in general, what do you think is the hardest part of production that you've been a part of so far in your experience?
Well, it's all quite difficult. The hardest part might just be development and pre-production, because in that stages you're really still grasping the core of your story and making it the best it can be, but you're also bringing on crew, casting, getting your locations. All of that is definitely stressful and takes a really long time, and you're going to get a lot of no's, or you know, all that stuff. But while I said earlier being on set is really difficult and really challenging, at least all of those components are already in place. So I think development, pre-production, that arena is definitely really challenging, because it can take a month or 8 years.
Yeah, for sure. I was just going to say, to add to that, is the limitations sometimes you're given when you're either working with budget or you're working with, you know, sometimes you can only afford this location, or you can only afford to shoot it in this time. So it forces you to think more creatively, and there's a discipline in that, and like, it just gets you out of your comfort zone. So I think that's, you know, what you're saying too.
Yeah, the film industry is all about getting out of your comfort zone, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, you have to take risks.
Yeah.
Honestly. I want to ask you, what are you currently watching right now in terms of film, television? Like, what are things that you're enjoying, things that inspire you?
Well, I've been watching Ahsoka.
Okay. We are fans of Ahsoka on this network.
Love Ahsoka. But my real answer to the question is that I've been watching Rebels, because I never got to watch it. And as I'm watching Ahsoka, my dad keeps filling me in on everything. So now I'm like, okay, I just have to watch Rebels, and I'm like sucked in. I'm in season 2. So I love Rebels. I just finished watching The Bear, which I absolutely love.
We love The Bear.
The Bear is great.
Yeah. Any films you've seen recently that have really struck a chord with you?
I recently watched Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always.
Oh yeah, that won an award at a big festival last year. Didn't it?
Yeah, it came out 2 years ago or a year ago, I think, but I recently watched that, and that was fantastic. The Barbie movie, obviously, which is amazing. I know you guys are fans as well. I watched Blue Beetle recently. Okay. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw Blue Beetle. Yeah. I don't think anybody else in here did.
Okay. I liked it. I thought it was fun.
I liked
George
it too.
Lopez made me laugh.
Yeah,
It was great.
He did. He was great in it. Is there anything you're reading right now that is...
Yes, I'm reading, I don't want to botch the title, Burn It Down by Maureen Ryan.
Okay.
And it's about...
It's fiction?
No, it's about the film industry right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it's not fiction.
No,
Sorry,
so
I answered
fiction.
way too quickly.
Okay, you did. I was like, you were confident in that.
No, it's...
This is a non-fiction story, everyone.
Maureen Ryan is a former producer, I think. I think now she leans more towards writing and journalism and that stuff. But she wrote this book very recently. It came out in June. Nap actually recommended it to me. And it's about the film industry in its current state and how she kind of wishes she could burn it all down and rebuild it from the ground up.
I share the same sympathies.
It's really great. I'm almost done with it.
Me too.
I highly recommend it.
That's awesome. And then what are you listening to? Music and or podcasts?
music wise, my favorite artist, Briston Maroney, has his new album releasing tonight, actually.
I haven't heard
What?
this. What genre of music is he?
Like indie.
Okay.
Indie rock?
Yeah,
Rockish
indie rock.
too,
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would definitely be listening to that tonight.
Okay.
And then I've been listening to Joe P.
I don't know if I know
Joe
these
P.
either.
He's also kind of indie rock.
Okay.
Same genre.
Oh, okay. I thought that was podcasts.
Oh no.
Sorry. Okay, I was thinking.
I don't listen to too many podcasts. I'm definitely more of a music listener.
The Cinema Wave podcast.
Oh well,
You listen to
with
it.
the exception of
Yeah.
Cinema Wave,
Thank
of
you,
course.
thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
But I honestly have been looking for a new podcast or a
Okay.
podcast to listen to. So if you have any
It's very
recommendations,
convenient. We own a podcast.
We
Oh.
do.
network.
But Zach, do you have a recommendation? I have two that I know. of.
Of a network
A
or
podcast.
podcast.
Oh no,
Not
well
a
we know
network.
there's a great network that's available
We're
for
on
you
the
guys
Cinema-
all to watch.
we're on the Cinema.
But is there any podcast that you listen to that you want to recommend?
I've been breezing through the Roger Deakins podcast.
Classic.
That's a great one.
It has so much material. I think I've honestly I've learned more in that podcast than film school. I'm
Dude,
not even kidding.
I love the conversation. That's what I really appreciate about podcasts because if it's done the right way, it should feel like it's a very natural conversation between people, and
definitely.
it feels like you're a fly on the wall. Deakins' podcast is
perfect
it's
for
that.
Every niche of filmmaking, producers, writers, actors, directors, design, everyone, production, everything. So it really gives you every perspective on working as a team, working as a unit, and then each in their own roles and stuff like that. But
Yeah, I have listened to a few episodes of his podcast.
okay. And my two favorite podcasts also led by people who work in the industry. Very different vibes. One is Smartless. I don't know if you ever.
Oh yes, Mikey actually is listening to
Okay.
it, and my sister has also
Smartless is
listened to
great.
it.
I think I started it a year ago, and I've listened to every episode. I went
Yeah.
back from when they started during COVID, and that's Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, Sean Hayes, and they just randomly one of them knows who they're picking as their guest, the other two don't know, and then they just have a great conversation.
I've heard great things about that.
And then Armchair Expert, which is hosted by Dax Shepard. Do you know
Okay.
Dax Shepard? He's Kristen Bell's husband, but he's an actor too. He's not an actor
Got it.
anymore. He was on Parenthood.
Okay.
And he was a comedic actor. I'm trying to think of big things he was
you would
in.
definitely recognize him.
Yeah, you would recognize him if you saw him. But his podcast he interviews people too, but there are a lot of comedic moments because it's a natural conversation, but it deals a lot in trying to kind of make people celebrities more human. It talks to them about their human experiences, and it's called Armchair Expert because it's kind of supposed to be treated as a therapy session by a guy who's not a therapist.
Oh, I like this idea. I've never heard of
that's a
this.
fun one too.
Okay.
So Armchair Expert and Smartless are my recommendations.
Great.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, you ready to play a game?
I guess so.
Okay, let's play a game.
Ooh, come on
We're
down.
playing. We have the Cinephile cards again. Everyone, guys, please Cinephile sponsor us. We love you. So I'm gonna pull out a deck of these cards, and you're gonna pick any card you want in here.
Okay.
I'll spread them out, and
one?
you can take one,
Okay.
and then you're gonna say your favorite film that actor or actress was in, and your favorite role that they have played. Okay.
Okay.
Here we go. Don't look. All right, Annie, read who you have.
I have Bill Murray.
It's Bill Murray's birthday today when we're recording. It is. Yes, it is. Happy 73rd, Bill Murray. So I want to know first what your favorite film is that he has appeared in. He is a Wes Anderson guy. He's in almost every Wes Anderson
He's
film.
been in a lot of movies.
He has been. This is a tough one because I feel like when you get some of the actors or actresses that have been in a lot, it's harder to kind of think.
Yeah.
I can help you out a little bit here. I'll go to his page.
The first movie that jumps to my head is Ghostbusters.
Okay. That's a
I
classic.
I know. I don't know if it's my favorite he's been in, but it's probably the most iconic.
I would say so.
It's definitely
That
up
or
there.
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog
Yeah.
Day.
Those are the
also
two
really
that
iconic.
I feel like are probably his biggest roles. So you're gonna go with Ghostbusters? We're gonna lock that
Yeah,
one in.
I'll go with Ghostbusters.
Okay, your favorite role that he's ever had. It could be the same answer.
No, I have an answer. He was in a Wes Anderson movie. It was like Wes Anderson's second or third movie.
Rushmore. Am I wrong? Jason Schwartzman's the lead.
Yes, it's Rushmore.
Okay.
Yes, his role in Rushmore.
Okay.
That sticks out to me.
Okay.
But he also did a good job in Ghostbusters.
It's a good answer. He was nominated for an Oscar
Yeah.
for Lost in Translation. Have you seen Lost in
I
Translation?
haven't.
You haven't?
No.
Liz, you love that
You
movie,
really
don't you?
love it.
Yeah. I
Okay,
kind of figured.
If Liz likes that movie, I have to watch it.
Yeah, it is very good. It is
Okay.
very good. But I remember him when he got nominated for it, he's like so against the work shows and shit. He was just like, I don't even want to go.
Oh.
But it was that was Sofia Coppola, right? Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was one of Liz's favorite filmmakers.
I'll have to watch
Shout out producer Liz today. Hey, Liz is on camera. Okay, so let's do another one.
Okay.
All right, read it out loud. Who do we got?
Laura Dern.
Laura Dern, another good one. Laura Dern appeared in Common Ground, which we just saw at Indie Street Film Festival. She's also great. No, this can also be, just because this popped up in my head, it could also be a television show.
Okay.
Like if that's the thing. Like for me, I just thought of her role in Big Little Lies. I think she's great in that. But I can't. So let's go with again your favorite movie that she's been in. Another one that she's been in so many fucking movies. And I feel like her filmography is even more diversified.
Yeah.
Like she's been in so many different kinds of things.
I mean, Jurassic Park, maybe.
That's
a solid answer.
That's a good one.
Will not disagree.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time.
But I also liked her role in Marriage Story.
I was gonna say
Yep.
that.
She was really good.
Marriage Story is so good.
I think she was nominated for Marriage Story, wasn't she?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she was.
Won the Oscar. Did she win the Oscar?
She might have. Did she win? Yeah, she
I don't
did.
remember
Won
she
one
won.
Oscar.
Oh wow.
Thank you, IMDb. We appreciate you. Also sponsor
Good
us
for
if you're
Laura
watching.
Dern.
Yeah, she's awesome. So you're gonna go favorite role, Marriage Story, favorite movie she's been in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
All right, a little round of applause for Annie.
Yeah.
Annie did great.
Round of applause for Laura Dern.
Laura,
And Bill Murray.
definitely,
Happy
for
birthday, Bill
sure.
Murray.
All right, so thank you, Annie, for coming on this episode of Jersey's Finest. We just played a fun round of Cinephile with you, and I just wanted to give you an opportunity to plug your socials, tell people about where they can see Homecoming eventually, when it does come out, when it's coming out, and stuff like that.
And how many festivals has it been in so far?
Oh, yes.
'Cause
Talk about that.
It's doing well.
Well, thank you for having me, first of all.
Absolutely.
My Instagram is @Annie Fleisch, just my name, and I'll definitely post updates there when the film is available. It'll probably be early spring 2024. So far, the film has been accepted into 3 festivals. There's a lot more pending, so fingers are crossed. But yeah, everything will be updated on my social media.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys again for tuning into this episode. If you're watching on YouTube or you guys are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, just signing off. I am Darian Scalamoni.
I'm Zach Miller. Thanks for coming in, and we appreciate your time.
And I'm Annie Fleisch.